We are with Anthony Scaramucci. And let me tell you about Anthony. He's got a new book out, but even cooler than that, Anthony Scaramucci was the founder, they call him the Mooch. He was the founder of Skybridge Capital, and which he is still with now. And then in the Trump administration, he was the chief strategist of XM Bank, and then spent some time as the chief communications director of the White House for the president. And Mooch, every time I see the president out on the lawn, because I'm part of the White House press corps, every time he's there doing a press conference on the lawn, I think of you because your vision was to have these out on the lawn on a regular basis, and that never got implemented, but I thought that would have been a great idea.
Well, it's a great idea for him. I mean, his personality is such where the more engagement he has with the press and the American people, the better for him. And so I think Bill Shine is doing a lot of that, and I think the president likes it.
That is one of the best places to put him in because he's not confined. The whole outside thing, the optics are good, and he's able to just leave when he gets tired of it.
Right.
Which when you're sitting there behind the podium in the East Room or something, you can't necessarily do that. Mooch with us. Your new book out, Trump, the Blue Collar President. A lot of books out, Mooch. What defines your work from some of the others?
Well, there's a whole genre of Trump books, but what I really tried to do, what I tried to capture in this book was the essence of what is taking place in America over the last 35 years. And so I grew up in a blue-collar family. My dad was an hourly worker when he got started, 42 years at the same company. And so I wanted to write this book straddling the two worlds that I've lived in. You know, I had a dad and mom didn't go to college. I ended up going to Harvard Law School and building two successful hedge fund businesses and spent 11 days in the White House. And so I think I can see the global elites, what you would call the globalists, if you will, and I can also see the underlying strain of what's going on as it relates to the economic anxiety of the people that I grew up with. And so I tried to thread that through the book and tried to explain to people that we have to put this back together. The coalition of America, bringing everybody together, is to help those people. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to continue to enter into the global economy and have this full-blown global engagement, our policymakers, our leaders, our presidents have to figure out a way to help bring along those people that have felt left out for the last 35 years. So that's really the essence of the book.
Mooch, if you're reading this book, what is the one thing that you would say you're going to get out of it? Like just the top line, when you put it down, your wow. What will your wow be?
The wow would be, frankly, that if you're a Democrat, stop calling these people deplorable, white nationalists, ethnocentrics, all of these nonsensical names, racist. They're just not that. They're good, hardworking Americans that want jobs and want an aspirational life for their family members. So stop doing that. Re-engage them. They left your party for a reason. Mr. Trump, the president, hijacked them and moved them over to his side of the ledger in 2016. He's probably going to keep them there because of some really good policies and as the tax plan and all this stuff really starts to come into fruition. But I think the big message here is that it's one America, but we're split now economically, and we need to figure out a way to thread it back together. And that's basically the message of the book.
Mooch's new book, Trump, the Blue Collar President, by Anthony Scaramucci. You can get it at Amazon, B. Dalton Bookstore, any of your favorites. Going into 2020 midterms, the night started out pretty good. Then it went down. Then it just went down. 2 weeks later, it kept going down. A lot worse now than it looked about 3 a.m. on election night.
Yeah.
Vote harvesting and nonsense like that. Mooch, how does the president get reelected in 2020?
Well, I think there's three things that will help him get reelected. Number one is his personality, the strength of his personality, and the underlying quiet popularity that he has. There's a lot of people, frankly, that won't tell you on a radio show or tell you in a country club how much they like him, but then they'll quietly go and vote for him. So strength of his personality. Second thing will be the economy. Despite the volatility in the stock market right now, I actually think the economy is going to continue to grow through the 2020 election cycle. Very hard to dislodge a sitting president in that situation. And then the last thing which we both know because we're experienced at this now, the president will probably have $1.5 billion to $2 billion to spend on his reelect. He got started very earlier than I think anyone ever in history on the reelect in terms of the fundraising. He's through $250 million now of fundraising, and I predict he'll probably have close to $2 billion to spend. And he's a judicious guy about spending. Remember, we were outspent almost 2-1 last time. We were outmanned and womaned from a personnel point of view about 1.5 to 1 as well. And so this guy knows how to spend the money judiciously, and he'll do a great job. And by the way, the American people genuinely like him. I think if you took the Mueller investigation and some of the nonsense that goes on in the media out of the equation, his poll numbers and his approval rating would be a lot higher.
Chief of Staff reported today General Kelly likely out, not the conciliary that he needs going into a tough re-election campaign. Leading candidate Nick Ayers, also some talk about David Bossie, but insiders have told me Nick Ayers is the guy.
Yeah.
What say you?
I don't know who the guy is. I like Nick a lot. If it's him, I wish him well. I'll believe that John Kelly's leaving when I actually see it, though, because I've heard for the last month that he's leaving. I heard for 6 months prior to that he was leaving, but it doesn't seem to be leaving. And so it's like weekend at Kelly. So we'll see what happens here.
In your mind, basically, court is still out. I've only got another minute. Yeah. Your take on the midterms.
Well, I think historically it falls in line with what's happened to other presidents. I think that the thing that people are not focused on in the mainstream media is the 53 Senate seats that he's got now. He gained a couple in the Senate, and that's going to help him with the Supreme Court and treaties and things like that. And so, listen, it was a mixed bag. He certainly lost, but so did President Obama and President Clinton and Ronald Reagan. And you can go back throughout out time. That happens in the midterms, but it's not a great indicator for what will happen in the reelect. Never
Anthony
is.
Scaramucci, thanks for being with us.
Great
Buy
to
his
be here.
book, The Blue Collar President Trump. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all those other great things.
Thank you, sir.
All right, God bless.